So again, my name is Randolph Fiodul, Junior Communication Junior Communication and Membership Officer for ECADE. And today I would like to welcome our panelists. Uh, we have our first panelist, we have Senator McCoy, who is the founder and director of the St. Kitts and Nevis Alliance for Equality and a board member of the Eastern Caribbean Alliance for Diversity and Equality. She is an outstanding and brave human being which appreciates the LGBTQ plus community and is extremely proud to be a part of such culture. Tinetta also plays an active role in the political landscape in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Our second panelist, Jamelia Edwards, who is from the island of St. Croix, USVI. She studied and received a Bachelor's of Arts in Business Administration with a concentration in marketing, and is the president of One Love UVI, which stands for Love, Unity, and Victory for Silent Voices. Our a nonprofit in the Virgin Islands whose mission is to provide community and resources for LGBTI Virgin Islanders, advocate on LGBTI related laws, and to promote a cultural sensitivity on the behalf of LGBTI community. And our third panelist is Michael Thomas, who joined Grandchap in 2007 as a volunteer and is a certified voluntary counselor and testing provider. Recognized for his commitment to the organization, he was appointed to the advisory board and now serves as the vice president of the organization. And his focus has been HIV and AIDS prevention and education and sexual reproductive health and rights, especially with marginalized communities. He has worked with the Caribbean HIV and AIDS Alliance on the ECAP project during his time with Caribbean HIV AIDS Alliance. He has also been recognized in the Commonwealth Young Achievers Book and has also served as the chair of the Barbados and OECS Youth Advisory Group for the United Nations Population Fund. Michael has also worked with many charitable organizations throughout Grenada, regionally and internationally, and has participated in multiple international conferences, such as One Young World Summit, the World Conference on Youth, the Atlantic Dialogue and Young Emerging Leaders Program, and the International HIV and AIDS Conference. He also serves as a co-president of Pride and Equality SGU, a LGBT student organization at St. George's University. He is currently a One Young World Caribbean ambassador and was also a recipient of the 2017 Queen's Young Leader Award. His most recent accomplishment has been his participation in the 2018 Young Leaders of the Americas Initiative in the United States of America and the 2019 Unleash Innovative Lab in Shenzhen, China. And unfortunately, our fourth panelist couldn't make it. That is Chelsea Foster. She had to drop out at the very last minute due to an emergency. So I would like to welcome our three panelists here with us and apologize on behalf of Chelsea. So to begin the session, I would just start with this first question. How have you as a young person engaged with ECADE in your advocacy? And any one of you could start answering that question. If not, I could call somebody's name. Okay.
I could start. For me, ECADE basically gave me the blueprint to move One Love from a university club to a nonprofit organization. And they also have created a community where we can share information about funding for those organizations. So that is how I have been engaging with ECADE. I use ECADE as a learning experience to just build my grassroots organization. And I'm just basically trying to emulate the different organizations that are a part of ECADE.
Great. That's some good stuff to hear. Having an organization that helps. You see, at first it was in the school and now it's recognized as a non-profit on the island. So that is a good step and some way to start at least. I'll probably go to Michael next.
So ECADE has helped Friendship in many different ways. We've collaborated with ECADE on many different projects. As the first panelist stated, they would have provided us with avenues for funding, and also they would have actually helped us most recently with a communication plan and other aspects of the organization as the umbrella organization. And that is GreenChap.
Great. And Tineta?
All right. Well, for me, what I would say is ECADE basically helped me to be able to uh, serve serve the LGBT population. I think is better than I started. ECADE also helped me to build my own self to be in the position I am today, and also they also give me opportunity to learn through forums, um, the different conferences, and also to most importantly, I mean, we through ECADE we do have a lot of discussions and everything like that. So I would say that's when it comes to advocacy, ECADE helped me to be where I am today, and also helped me to better serve the population in St. Kitts.
At least there is one thing that is common amongst all three of the panelists and the organizations that you're attached to, is that ECADE has a way to, ECADE is an organization that helps, develop the organization, helps with communication and ways to better your advocacy in your countries. If I heard all of y'all correctly. So that is actually a really good thing. So my question is, with y'all being free young people serving in these different organizations in different positions, what impact do you think young people involved in advocacy will have in the long run?
Well, for me, I think that young people, the impact that young people will have in advocacy in the long run is that we are the driving force for our future, and we are the ones who are basically we're the ones who we know exactly what we want for ourselves. I think for too long we've had older heads within the communities really sitting back and thinking, okay, I know exactly what young people want, and they're not living in our shoes today. So I think as much as they think that they know exactly what we want, we are the ones who are actually supposed to advocate for ourselves, because we know where we want to see ourselves in the future and what we want to see, the progression we want to see in each of our Caribbean islands for young people, because we do not want to be in a situation where we're stuck in in this mindset of our pre-ancestors, where we're deemed as, saying that, oh, young people should not be at the forefront of a lot of things because either they're uneducated or they do not know what they want. And I think it's about time that we actually step out from that mindset and really become a bit more involved and be that driving force to make change within the communities for us.
That's actually amazing. Before I respond to you, Michael, I'd like to hear from Jamelia as to what she has to say.
I agree with Michael. I feel that young people have a fire underneath them that basically, whenever we do anything in advocacy, we give it our all. And like, for example, in the Virgin Islands, I feel like young people understand economics and the social laws of the world and understand politics and stuff. So it's kind of easy to be a young person in advocacy because you know which buttons you have to press in order to get the public to understand and basically listen to you and see you and hear you out. Whereas maybe the older generation is more like, well, we have to do it the traditional way. We see a new way of doing things. Yeah, I have some examples, but I want to save it for when you're asking more questions.
Okay, Nicholas, I'm not sure if you have anything to add to that.
Well, yeah, definitely I agree with the first two because, but then again, for me, in the long run, that basically means that the message and the fight will continue for years to come. And in the long run, the younger generation than us definitely will develop and understand the struggles faced by the persons before them, and they will be able to understand and encourage more change in the near future, and also they will be able to relate to the peers more in the long run as well.
Okay, this is actually pretty good, and I mean it brings me into the next question. But before I go into the next question, there's something that I would like to add, and I think Mike, all of you touched on it when you spoke about, the young people will learn from what we did before them. And Michael was one who actually stressed on it a bit more that, we have to be the change we want to see. And without us young people, advocating and pushing the buttons and knowing when to use lime and when to use lemon, and, having situations like these, I think that's where, let's say, the leaders, those in position of power, know that there are young people here who are ready and willing to take on the mantle and show them that we, as young people, could achieve what they think they cannot achieve. And I think that's one of the biggest things I think that we could look for in the long run from young people, because I think we're more vocal and more open and we're willing to risk a lot just so that we could achieve what we want to achieve. And that's what brings me to my third question. Do you think in the near future there will be a lot more young people in advocacy? And what potential do you think it can have?
Well, I guess I can start. Well, what I would say is most definitely there will be more young people involved in advocacy in the near future, and the potential will be limitless because technology changes, and so are the platforms. The younger generation are more versatile in the use of these platforms and becoming increasingly empowered because of the advocacy of their peers and also the ones that come before them as well. So definitely there will be a lot more.
So for me, I think yes, there'll be more young people involved in advocacy in the future, but I think we also need to look at. I will go back to my initial point where when I said about we have the older generation who think they're the ones who are making the decisions. I think what we've noticed a lot in our generation currently is that there are a lot of young people who are involved in a lot of different aspects of advocacy, but then sometimes you find leaders gravitating towards the young people who mainly have the mindset that they have. So, for example, if if the governments have a lot of young people in their ranks who believe the same thing that they would believe in, and you find it difficult for other young individuals who may have a different perspective to join in and give their take on it, because those individuals are overlooked and they're not seen as, a contributing factor. And I think if we were to look at that and get more young people who have different perspectives and just not the same perspective of our current government and our current leaders in different organizations, I think we can look at young people becoming more involved past the future, or maybe becoming more involved now, because a lot of young people think that their voices are being stifled because they're not given that opportunity to really see what they want to say, or if they're given the opportunity they have to basically what I want to say is basically just change your speech to basically adapt to what is already happening in the world, and they're afraid to actually just say what's on their mind just in order for us to fit in, and we need to get away from that. Oh, I need to fit in to be recognized. And as the panelists before me said, if we have more young people who are willing to do that, then we can see more people young people becoming involved, and in order for us to basically do what we need to do.
I definitely believe that more young people will be involved in advocacy because we understand the change that needs to happen in the islands in order for us to basically catch up with everybody else. I kind of feel like we need to stop living in the past, and young people will know that it will be their time to create the change that they want to see, as the other panelists have said. And I also feel like because we are growing old, like, yeah, we young, but we growing up and we are about to hit the age where our spending power is the power that drives the economy. So I feel like as we grow old and we start to understand how the world works, and we are observing other countries and realizing that, okay, my island can be better if we just give everybody human rights, you know? So I feel like as we grow older, or as everybody starts to grow up, we're gonna realize that there's other different avenues where you can enter advocacy, even if it's just through social media and the internet, publicizing Black Lives Matter or LGBTQ rights matter. The more people who are exposed to that information is the more change that you create in the Virgin Islands. I'm trying to speak from a Virgin Islands standpoint. So I definitely say yes for that question as well.
Okay, great. And I think that is really one of the things that I want to mention. I think Michael spoke at, we need more young people involved now in advocacy. And my thing is probably we need more young people, especially as it relates to, minority groups and people who do not get much attention or have more services given to them. We need people to advocate for these people. And yes, we need the young people, but in some cases or some instances, you would get, like Michael mentioned, some young people who are aligned with the mindset of the older generation. How can we as young people make a difference and help them see that, what, this is somewhat outdated. Here's a new way that things working. This is how you can move forward. This is how you can see progress. And I think you, Jamila, mentioned it. And it just goes into the next question that I want to have. Yes, we want more people, but how can we get more young people involved in advocacy? As a young person, what more can you do, or what do you think can happen to get these young people involved?
For me, I believe doing more outreach towards the younger generation. As was said earlier, One Love came out of a university, and then became a nonprofit. So creating those communities within the college setting, and also doing outreach to schools, because you have to understand that, well, for LGBTQ advocacy, there is young people in different circles. And for down here in the Caribbean, where it's like, well, St. Croix, I don't know about the Pacific Caribbean, but like it's a very conservative island. So you want to be able to offer that community to all the young people and just give them that community first. And then when they see that they have that support, they'll start to be inspired to make that change. And that's kind of what I've been seeing since One Love was making the change from a university to a nonprofit. Is just more young people from the LGBTQ community is seeing the change that we are making, or seeing that there is community for them to be a part of. And they slowly step out their shell, and then they get involved in advocacy because they want to increase the change that they're seeing on the island.
Michael?
I agree with everything that the panelists would have said. But Jamila, let me get your name correct. I agree with everything that you would have said. I would say, more outreach, we can do a lot of outreach, but we also need to look at, as much as we're doing outreach and we want young people to become involved, we also have to think about, are they really interested in advocacy because of the perks involved, or because a lot of young people now, based on my experience, a lot of young people that I try getting involved in advocacy, even if it's not for advocating for, inclusion for the LGBTQ community, or just general stuff, like sexual reproductive health, gender-based violence, a lot of things. You try to get them involved, and then the first thing that they're thinking about is, oh, so do I have an opportunity to travel? Do I not have an opportunity to do this or do that? And they're not seeing that, yes, as much as we are doing the advocacy work and we're getting to go all of these places and we're traveling. That's just not all what it takes. There's a lot of work that goes into this. So when they think that, yes, and I say, okay, I'm going to this country for this particular conference, I'm not going to the conference to sit back and relax and enjoy myself. I'm actually going to this conference to do work so I can come back and advocate for you. So you need to be able to want to do the same and not just think about the perks. So yes, we can do as much outreach as possible, but we really need to look at, are there the few who are within that bunch who really wants to come in and actually make the change that we're looking for within the region in order for our voices to be heard and for us to move past this, again, older generation mindset that, young people, we don't have a voice. We're just here to live and enjoy our lives, and we don't know what we want.
Michael, I like the fact that you mentioned, a lot of young people get involved in advocacy, and most of them think of, the perks or the good things that come with it, not seeing, all the background work. What they probably might see is just, you travel here to go to a conference and they're not really sure what happened at the conference, because that's what they see because you post a picture, you're there. And I think that is something that sometimes I would say we sometimes have to change as well. Because when we go, we sometimes post, the pictures here and there, the good, not necessarily the bad or the ugly, but they see the good most times. And I think that's what most of them might think it's about. And unless we change the mindset in that aspect and let them know that, hey, yes, it comes with this, it comes with that. However, this is what it takes, this is what it involves for us to get to where we are, right? So I just like the fact that you mentioned because it raises a lot of questions as to why a lot of people get involved in advocacy and the reason why they want to do it in the first place. And sometimes it's not for the right reasons for some people. Some do it because they're passionate, they love it, they want to see change, they want to make a difference. And some just come because it has a travel opportunity that they would just want a stamp on the passport saying I visited this country and go back and do nothing at all. So thank you for bringing that up. And I'm not sure if Sinead has anything to add to that as well.
Well, definitely not much I need to add because I mean they basically said it. But what I would like to say is that young people getting involved. Sometimes you don't necessarily have to be, going to a conference or something like that. Sometimes we can start by just being on social media, encouraging a positive change. Sometimes
Very true.
that 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 would be good.
Yeah. And that's a first step. That's a step at least to progress. I mean, just a share on social media, a like, a comment, something that makes a huge difference. Because sometimes the population that I might reach, she might reach a completely different population. So, I mean, if that is something that could happen, I guess, would reach more people, we would have at least a larger audience who would see the work that is being done and at least maybe consider people who have been considering but don't know where to go or who to reach out to might see that post from yours and that okay, so they're doing it, let me reach out to them and see how I could lend my assistance, lend a hand to the organization or to whoever is doing the advocacy in the region. And before I continue, I heard someone speaking. I'm not sure if they have any question. Oh, and if anyone has a question, you could put it in the chat as well. Sorry, I forgot to mention that earlier, but if you do, you could put it in the chat and I will ask that to our panelists. And I have one more question for all of you, which is, in what areas do you think ECADE as an organization can lend support to amplify youth voices and strengthen youth advocacy? What do you think we can do at the Secretariat to help young people in the Caribbean?
So for me, I think, personally speaking, I think ECADE is already doing a tremendous job, and they're really trying as much as possible to help in areas that they can, um, mindful the resources that they have. And I want to really commend ECADE for that because, before, you have all of these organizations that was all for themselves, and we're trying to do our own thing within the region. But then we realize at some point down the line, as the years progress, realize that, a lot of these organizations that are now in existence, we all have basically, most of us have the same goal in mind, and we want to achieve the same thing. I think at this point, ECADE just needs to continue supporting as much as they possibly can. Currently, maybe just looking at other avenues to become a bit more involved with these organizations. So sometimes maybe not even if it's not, financially, for example, if for an example, one of the organizations is having a little session, they can have a representative from ECADE or just reach out and be like, hey, we noticed that this session is happening. Is there an avenue for us to collaborate and do some more work to reach a specific target audience? Because as we know, especially within the community, the marginalized community, the people who we find at the forefront all of the time are the individuals who really want the knowledge, and then we have certain aspects of the community we're unable to reach because they think that, hey, these organizations are only for this specific person. So maybe if we look at collaborating with organizations more to try and see how we can look at strategies to pull in other demographics into activities, then we might be able to, I wouldn't say might is a very crazy word to use, but we'll be able to, basically reach that threshold where we can say that, hey, we have these individuals here who are willing to work, who has seen the visibility of us being important. And then it goes back into those individuals reaching out to a friend and getting a friend involved. And they can be like, hey, well, I've been to this session and it's very informative. You should come and move from that. I want to boil back to a couple points before where we talked about, the whole social media aspect of things. And sometimes we also need to look at, although we post a lot of stuff on social media, sometimes we really need to look, and in terms of getting young people involved, we need to look at the people who are actually interacting with those posts, right? Because you may post something and then you notice that one person liked the post, two person liked the post. You may post like an educational session, you have 1-2 persons liking the post, and then you post a party and you have 150 likes or 60 people messaging to find out where is this party going to be. And I think what we need to start doing is, even if we have to look at the trends. So if we're noticing that we know younger people are more interested in partying and, I guess what I'm trying to say is like we reach them where they are. And this is something that Grenchap has been trying to do for a while. And I think it's been really successful for us, where we notice that we may have sessions at the office and not much people show up. And then we have an outside event and we have more people show up at an outside event other than coming to the office space. And then we use that avenue to educate. So you're not just coming, yes, you're coming to have fun and enjoy yourself, but you're going to have an educational session while enjoying yourself.
And that's a very good point as well, Michael. Because most times we try to, you have to reach young people where they are to get them to want to do something so that they could move a step further. And that's one of the things I think we have been trying. And also, I'm not sure if you're aware, but ECADE also work with other marginalized groups like women and girls, people living with HIV and AIDS, all these organizations working with these various groups make an ECADE's membership. So we sort of, whilst our main focus mainly is LGBT organizations, we do work with organizations that focus on women and girls, PL, HIV, disabilities, youth. So we basically have a whole broad um, group of marginalized communities that we work with. But I think the issue, I should say, is trying to reach these young people where they're at. And I think that is something that we're trying and we're hoping to achieve. And I also like the fact that you mentioned, ECADE could lend support to various organizations if they're having an event to have an ECADE representative there, so that ECADE could be visible, so they could know about ECADE and learn what ECADE is doing and what ECADE stands for as an organization as a whole. So thank you for bringing that up. And Senator,
Well, I mean, I would just like to add what he said. Yeah, definitely over the past couple of years, I mean, ECADE is fairly new still, but they have done a lot for, the young people in general. I mean, I am one here to testify that ECADE has done a lot for me personally and helping me to develop my skills. And they're also doing it with other countries that I'm aware of. And it's just about to continue strengthening the areas that we already started working on. And maybe one of the areas them that we could look at is maybe a sports aspect, you know, like strengthening advocacy within the sports unit, because I mean there are many sports individuals that are part of the LGBT community. Maybe that's something we could use the sports group to also strengthen that voice going forward.
great. I like that. And I think that goes back to the point, reach them where they're at. And if they're into the sports group, reach out to the sports groups to have these sessions. And maybe two or three out of the, let's say, group of five, maybe two or three out of the five might want to move forward and help somebody else and educate somebody else. And I mean, if that pattern continues, then you would have more people educated, more people spreading the word, and we will reach the larger audience that we want to reach. Um, Jamila,
Hello.
Oh, so is that
Hi. Oh,
hello.
hi, I'm Tristan from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I work with Vinci Chap. And I would like to agree with what Michael was saying. Social media is this huge platform that a lot of young gay people use. And not only that, a lot of young gay people are very well connected, and we should start using our friends' connections to get our message out there. So, because a lot of our friends have huge platforms and they use their platforms for other reasons. So I think it would be a good idea to like have our friends use their platforms to get our message out there so that we can reach people who don't know about us. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. And I think that could be a good idea. However, we sometimes people might be part of the community, but they won't be visible on social media. They might be visible on social media, but not for that specific reason. And I think it boils down to respecting people's personal space, and you know what they want to do with their social media platforms. Yes, they might be able to advocate for you, but it comes to the point where you know what you might reach out to them, and then that's where they might feel like, okay, yes, I could do something for you. However, social media is out of it. Especially if it comes down to someone with maybe a good amount of following, it might come down to the point where they might feel like, okay, yes, I have people supporting me who are part of the community. Also, it could be a case where majority of their followers are not part of the community, and these people do not know about the sexuality, the sexual orientation, and it's something that they might not be comfortable with speaking on any social media platform about. So we just have to be mindful of these things. While it's a good idea, we have to take that into consideration as well. And if I go back to you.
um, the other panelists have said the things about social media, and I definitely think that supporting each other on social media and sharing our programs will help. The other thing is basically mentorship, which is already provided, but like maybe like direct mentorship. For example, grant writing. I always see grants these grants being shared. However, because of my very busy life, I sometimes don't have the opportunity to click on those grants. So maybe if like there was a workshop for grant writing and then a workshop for this and that, where you just like, I don't know, maybe we spend some time going over a template that we can use for certain grants. That way, when those fundings do come in, my organization and everybody else's organization can be able to fill out that application and apply for those grants so that we can have funding for other programs throughout the year. So for me, I think maybe on a mentorship scale, and just because I already admire ECADE, so I would definitely like a mentorship program or just like a mentorship program on a specific topic.
Thank you very much. I think that's actually pretty good. I think it's something I guess we could look into. I mean, I'm speaking on it. I'm just the junior communications and membership office. I can't say much, but something that could be looked at, maybe possible discussion where we maybe could do some sort of like internship or something if somebody could. We're hoping that there's funding for it, that is. Send someone to a different country to work with a specific organization to see the way that they work and learn from that organization and go back and see what they do in that workspace that you could use in your country to, help, you know, help you in some way, if that makes sense. So I guess that's something that we could possibly look at, but it would have to go through the ED, through the board, possible discussion and see how that goes or how that could work out for the organizations in the region. Um, and I'm not sure if any one of our participants has a question that they would like to ask you, the panelists. If anyone has a question, now's the time to unmute your mics, ask your question. No? Okay. So I'm not sure if anybody has a question, but I'm not sure if any one of you, the panelists, has any last words before we end. Yes,
Not
no?
necessary. Just about telling, just some words of encouragement and thanking EK for what they have done so far, and just keep doing it. And we as young people, we as the different organizations, small organizations, different countries, we appreciate the work that has been done by EK. We really appreciate the help. Um, as the panelists earlier mentioned about the grant rating and everything like that. I mean, those are things that already are put in place. It's just about for EK to keep doing what they do and probably bring them up again. So, individuals who have not captured that moment, they actually get the opportunity to capture it, to be able to, to, um, to utilize that tool going forward. We're just about telling EK thanks and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Michael,
I share the same sentiments. I think ECADE has been doing a great job over the last 5 years, and they've really stepped in and has been, I would say, more of a pillar, or I guess at the term, we know that they're the umbrella organization for a lot of the smaller organizations around the region. And I think they're, for the last 5 years, they've done a guys have done a great job, and to keep doing what you're doing, because I think you're noticing that because you're doing all of this, you're seeing the fruits of your labor. Because if it was not a successful plan, or if it's something that wasn't working, I don't think your organization would have actually made it to 5 years. And I think as we go along, we can continue to work with each other to ensure that maybe not 5 years down the line, but maybe 20, 25 years down the line, we can say ECADE has done a fantastic job and they continue to do a fantastic job and to keep the trend going in the near for futures to come, because we're not going to be around forever. And again, going back to mentorship, we can look at how we're going to pull in younger individuals to mentor them, especially individuals who really want to become involved and do not have the means to do so. And that's it for me right now.
Good. I'm not sure if Jamila wants to add anything to that.
Yes, I just wanted to say thank you, because definitely if I was not invited to that conference in 2018 and I wasn't a part of that conference, I would have never had the motivation to actually start a nonprofit. So continue doing what you're doing, and thank you. Thank you for basically giving me the fire that I needed to go out and make these things happen and make these changes happen in my community.
Great, and I would just like to thank each and every one of you, the panelists, for taking the time out to be on this panel and discuss what we've just discussed here today. I think having celebrated 5 years, it's possible it might not be a huge thing, might not be a milestone, but I think for an organization which started, and I mean, like Kenita would always say, we started probably with, we don't know what we were doing at the beginning, but here we are 5 years later, doing so much, helping so many organizations, do better, become better, and we still continue to do better. We can still continue to help them in any way possible that we can. And now seeing that there's a lot more young people involved, how can we get more young people involved? So I think that's a really good thing, and I would just like to give my heartfelt thank you to each and every one of you for being here, having this discussion with me on this nice Wednesday afternoon. Thank you again. And before we leave, I just have one video to play, which just speaks to on ECADE's, existence for, the 5 years that it has been around, and just what the mission, vision of ECADE is, and what the plan is moving forward, and what exactly we would like to do and want to achieve in the near future. So I'm going to start this video now, and hopefully let me know if there is volume when it starts. Is there a sound? I don't know.
2015 was that first meeting. Then there was a second meeting in 2017 that further developed on that. And part of this was looking at, everybody was speaking about litigation, but what did litigation look like for the Eastern Caribbean? But we have attempted to ensure that every organization that we are aware of within the Eastern Caribbean, an invite had been sent for membership. The strategy that had been developed looked at pretty much some of the organizations that we had been working with already in the international arena. But part of the strategy for this region was also to look at not just the fact that we wanted litigation and the change of laws. What was the sustainability plan for the organizations in question? And what was some of the community mobilizing and groundswell that was also needed for additional layers of support, while looking for external funding. And so persons from each of those territories, from these countries, made commitments and decisions that they would come together under this strategy to look at this, whilst we had the lawyers discuss unpacking the laws and telling us and guiding us as to which country would have been more likely to have a positive outcome of a decision if that case was to be filed. Coming out of this, we decided that they were going to have strands of the strategy. Our strategy is not just looking at litigation. Litigation is one strand. Education and advocacy is the second strand. And the third strand is actually security, including mental health. And then the fourth strand is communication and campaigns. This is how the Eastern Caribbean strategy has been set up for the country. And so any litigation process that has come up for the region, even if we are not involved in it, in terms of the litigation aspect, we have had to come back to the table and rethink what that means for communication and security. When something happens in one country, the impact is up for us all.
And this is where we come to an end. Again, I would like for tuning in and staying here and having this conversation. Thank you once again, and look forward to our next youth perspective. Probably might be the end of July, where we will possibly be discussing something affecting young people with a bunch of new panelists. So look out for that, and hopefully in the near future have you back again as another panelist for one of our future youth perspective. Thank you once again, and goodbye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.